hopping around, and I was like, okay, well, I know I want to drift, so let's buy something driftable that's inexpensive, that has good aftermarket support and a decent, that's decent out the box, right?
Yeah. Hey, by the way, you should clarify that when you say inexpensive. So all you IS300 guys that listen to this, when we say inexpensive, we're talking about like they're giving them away.
Yeah,
if you go to
Altezas are so much cheaper overseas, and I still stand by this. Like, I will buy an Alteza again in 2 years when they're legal. You know, and I've actually been thinking about buying one now just to have it stored, because you can still buy them for less than $5,000.
Yeah.
6-speed with a Beams engine, you know. I mean, there's no reason not to in my mind. There's absolutely no reason not to. It's the cheapest right-hand drive drift car you will be able to find. That's reliable,
awesome
that's
car.
comfortable. Yeah, I mean, they're great cars, and they handle so good. They weigh maybe a couple 100 pounds more than a 240. Like, they're pretty negligibly heavier.
Which I wonder why they didn't get cool. Like, I don't understand that. They're like the perfect car for anything you want to get into.
It's really interesting.
Didn't get cool.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting because, well, I think in Japan it was because the Chaser really overshadowed them.
Yeah, because you want the powerful engine.
Right. And I will say the 3S is very, very limited. It's a great engine, but if you want anything over like 270 horsepower, it needs a lot of work, and it gets very, very finicky. You know, like there's one dude in Canada, and I can't remember his name. I think his name's like James Green or something like that. And so I'm sorry if I bastardized that. But he was pushing like 420 horse on a stock 3S, and he was like the poster child for stock power. And he was like, nobody's ever hit this much or been reliable. That's the Achilles heel, I guess, for stock power. You know, low power drifting, the Altezas were great, and you could put a 4.6 in them or a 4.3 and get a little more out of your gearing. But overall, like, it was a great car, and it was not expensive, so that's the route I'm going to keep going. But anyways, so I was shopping for cars, and I was like, well, I already have a 240 in the States, so I don't want another Silvia. You know, Chasers are super expensive, which back then they were not. They were like $8,000 to $10,000, which in my head I was like, that's a fuck ton of money. But now seeing them go for like 20 plus, it's like I should have bought one.
Dude, nice ones are like go on GoNet. Nice ones are like 40, 50 grand. It's getting crazy.
Yeah, Supras were the same way, dude. I remember there was a guy in Misawa that was selling his Mark IV non-turbo for like $2,500, and nobody bought it. And then I went and was like, right as I was leaving, and I was like, yo, if you want to sell that thing still, I will absolutely buy it. And he was like, nah, bro, I'm good. There were still deals to be had, but so I found an Alteza 6-speed with an LSD for $1,700, and I drove down. Or I what did I do? I took a train down with Jess, and or no, the night bus. I took the night bus down. That's another thing in Japan. There's a lot of different ways to get around, and it depends on your wallet, you know. So you can either take a night bus, which literally leaves at like 8 at night and gets into Tokyo. My fucking dog. I'm about to go. What the fuck are you doing? Go.
Oh, we are not.
Jesus.
This, by the way.
She's just sitting here going, you motherfucker. God damn it. I love my animals, but I also hate my animals. So you can take a night bus, which is your cheapest option. It's about $80 one way to Tokyo. And it leaves at like 8 in the evening, and it gets to Tokyo seriously like 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
and you just get off, and you could take a train anywhere, you know. So that's what we did. We took a night bus down. We slept the whole way. It was okay. Being 6'4" on a night bus is very difficult because I was comically way too big for the seats. Like the headrest was at my shoulders, and I was like, damn it, dude, this is not.
Yo. Let me tell you about the time that you Jess dropped us off and she drove my car back. You remember that?
I do. We still talk about that, actually.
We took the night bus, and dude, so we ate at the restaurant that's at the hotel by the bus stop, and as soon as we got on the bus, dude, I had to take the biggest shit ever. And we're like on the highway, and I was looking at jumping. I was like, dude, I'm not gonna make it. Like, I'm gonna shit myself on this fucking bus right now. And I was like, what can I do to get off of this bus? So they have the little button where you can, like, you know, let the driver like know that you need to get off. And we had to I pressed the button. We stopped at like a 7-Eleven or whatever. And I had to get out and take a shit. And I was so embarrassed. But I was like, I'm not going to make it.
They don't have
to make it 12 hours.
Didn't they have a bathroom on the bus?
On the bus. No, they didn't. Dude, I was sweating. I was like looking at Jumpman. I was like, will you respect me after this if I shit myself?
Dude, every bus is different because some of them did. Dude, there was a woman that I'm pretty sure fucking like was almost dying on a bus that I was on. Because I took it a few times, man. I took it the second or third time I took it. We were going to go pick up Brittany's pink S13. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember.
I'll post a photo of that on Instagram, at least on stories or something. But I've got a tattoo to commemorate that trip because it was a fucking nightmare. We could talk about that at a different episode.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, let me write this down so I don't forget it. We called it the Pinky Tour. Anyways, so I'm riding a bus, and this old lady is, like, coughing the whole time. She's, like, COVID patient 0, right? Like, this was in 2016. She was probably COVID before they even knew it. She's coughing the whole trip, and she goes in the bathroom, and just, like, and the bathroom is like, right next to me, okay? So I'm there's 3 rows in this bus. There's one on each side by the windows, and then one in the middle. It's really weird. But I can see the bathroom, and it's, like, 6, I don't know, maybe 10 feet away. So she goes in the bathroom and just doesn't come out. And I fall back asleep, right? Because I'm like, whatever, this old lady's just in the bathroom. Well, I wake up and they stopped the bus and the driver's like knocking on the window or on the door. And they're like trying to get this woman out of the bathroom. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And yeah, they were all worried about her. And I think they had her... If I remember right, I want to say they had the police like escort this woman from wherever we pulled over back to, some kind of safety. But we were stopped for like an hour. But anyways, yeah, so we would take the night bus for several trips just to pick up cars mainly. I think I only did it once to actually like visit somewhere. More often than not, it was for us to go pick up vehicles. Did you and I take the night bus to? No, we. How did we get down to Nagoya? That's right.
We took the Shinkansen.
That's right.
Because I remember us getting drunk and playing Mario Kart on the freaking the train.
That's right, dude. I forgot about that. That was a good trip too.
Who was the one that suggested that we get alcohol? Because like I don't know, in my innocent brain, I just assumed like that's not something you do.
I think that was my bet. Yeah,
I want to say it was you. Yeah, you're like, let's just get a couple of these fucking beers, and I was like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, I forgot about that because we showed up on the Shinkansen. Like most old Japanese people would show up with like bento boxes and shit, and we're like cracking open cold ones, like, like let's go. No,
like
we weren't being
out
belligerent.
The Switch.
Right? Yeah, fucking rocking on some Mario Kart. We were not being belligerent by any means, but that was definitely like Saturdays are for the boys type vibes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of being belligerent. I'm sorry. For the listeners, I'm sorry, but we're stuck on transportation, but I'm sure you guys don't mind. But so when I was coming back from Tokyo one time, taking a cue from you, I got a couple of chew highs. And, my wife, Jumbin, she's Asian. She's South Korean. But Asians have like a general like sense of etiquette when you're on public transport because it's so, important there. And so I was watching a comedy special on my phone when we were driving back, and I was like laughing because I was drunk. I was like pretty fucked up, and I'm like laughing out loud. And she like punched me in the arm. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What?" Like I'm just watching the show. She's like, "Why are you laughing so loud? And why is it so loud?" I was like, "I don't understand what the problem is. Like I'm just enjoying myself." And she's like, "People can hear you." I was like, okay, like what do you expect me to do? But like, and I guess that can lead us into what Japanese culture is like, I guess a little bit, because she was making the case to me that I was being impolite to other people, which I didn't realize at the time, but later on thinking about it, I was like, okay, I guess I can see how me being loud and enjoying myself in a public space is inconsiderate to other people.
Yeah, it is interesting, dude, because I feel like there's a difference between enjoying yourself and being like boisterous. And Americans a lot of times don't differentiate the two. And it was always, you probably remember this, like when you'd go out to eat or something, like the loud tables were always the American people. Like most Japanese people are very respectful of their noise, you know, and they can hold a conversation quietly and be respectful. And so a lot of times when you go to restaurants, even if they're big restaurants, they're not loud. Whereas in the States, you're hearing like, you know, people shouting and laughing and dishes clanking, and like they're pretty fucking loud when you're here. Which isn't a bad thing, but it's just different as a society over there, I think. Like, people are a lot more conscious of others socially, you know, whether it's their personal space or noise levels or just whatever. Or like, you know, if you're walking around in a store, they'll be very considerate to make sure that they're not, like, bumping into you. Like, it's just, they have a lot of consideration for other people, which I really, really liked. Because it was just, like, this common decency, I guess, you know?
Honestly, that's something I really miss, especially living here in the UK now. There's a sense of false decency, I guess. You know, everybody talks super polite, but that's not how they really are a lot of the times. I mean, you meet genuinely nice people, but in Japan, you could assume people are genuinely nice and operate like that, but here you can't operate like that. You can't just assume people are nice. You gotta kind of feel them out a little bit.
Yeah, that makes
or at least
sense.
that they're going to treat you with a certain level of respect.
That makes sense. I mean, two like very telling signs of like how Japan is are, I showed up to pick up the Altezza when I was in Japan, right? When I was in Tokyo, because I picked up the Altezza from Tokyo, and then Jessica and I drove it back. We road tripped it back to Misawa, and when I showed up, the car salesman on the lot, we'd already paid for the car. He went, hey, I tried starting the car this morning and it wouldn't start, and it's not jump starting. I think the battery is bad, so let me change it out for you. And I thought that was so honest. You know, like most, I've had terrible experiences with buying used cars, and that was actually one of the better ones because nothing was wrong with that car, dude. Like, I drifted it for years, and like nothing broke on it. That was a fantastically reliable car. But I just thought that honesty, he was like, hey, you know, I'm so sorry, but let me swap this battery out and let me have you guys, like, if you want to go to a cafe or whatever and come back. Like, he was just so nice about it. And so we walked around and got some coffee and went back and it was ready. And when Brittany and I went and picked up her Sylvia, we picked that up from Fukuoka, which was 21 hours away, dude. That was like the longest drive we ever did. And we spent the night in Hiroshima, and she fucking left her wallet and the keys to the car on the spoiler, and we came back out the next day and they were still there. Like, nothing happened at all. And I was just like, holy shit balls, dude. Yeah, public parking, dude. Like, public parking at street level, right off the road, you know, like the car was pink, super visible. And I mean, just right there, broad daylight, and they were still intact. I was like, holy crap. But yeah, just such a level of consideration. I don't know if you remember this or not, but back to cars, you know, because I talk about like, oh, we went down and picked this car up and drove it back. Japanese people don't do that. Like, that's a very American thing, to go get a car and be like, hey, can I drive this car home? And in America, you'll get that question a lot. You know, if a car is like a drift car, or if it's not that reliable, you'll hear, or maybe you've even asked this in a transaction, is like, hey, well, is it reliable enough for me to get it home? You know, can I drive it 4 hours or however long? And I've done that a lot of times when I shouldn't have. I've picked up a car, like my wife got a 240 one time and the brakes like did not work. And we're like, this will make it 5 hours down the road. It's fine. Dude, that shit was the sketchiest drive ever. Cause I was on the highway following people, you know, basically using my e-brake to stop the car. And Jesus. It was rough, man. But I mean, eventually the brake system worked itself out. I don't know how. And we really probably should have done something else. But like, after driving it for a week or so, the brakes got way, way better. But anyways, Japanese people don't do that. They don't just drive down and pick up a car and drive it back, because the license plates are attached to the owner. So most times that we went, we would buy temporary tags and we'd bring our own plates down. And that was like how to circumvent that issue. But people would still be kind of hesitant because the registration was still attached to them, because the liability. So if If me or, my gaijin friends like showed up and picked up this car and then did a bunch of hood rat shit on the way home, the previous owner would still be liable in some